How do I want to live this stage of my life? That is the question that I invite you to ask yourself. Because if you may remember, if you watched the previous episode when we talked about aging and when we talked about the grief that we may experience as we age, because there may be losses and we may feel that it is a challenge for us. So we covered that first because it's important to name that, to validate it, to honor how we feel. And then after we did all that, and if you have not watched that episode, I suggest you go there and you watch it so we can continue with this one. Because in this episode, I want to explore ways that we can live this stage with grace, as I said, with meaning and purpose. Hello, this is Ligia Houben. I love doing this with you because it is so important to talk about this transition, which is aging. If this is the first time you are with me, I have dedicated my life to help the griever to go through different losses. I am a grief specialist, thanatologist, and also I have dedicated my life, part of my life, to work with the older population because I studied also gerontology. I love it. I love older adults. And because the study of aging has to do with the different changes that we go through, I wanted to do this, okay? So now, as we start this episode, we will see ways that we can live this stage of doing things that make us feel good, with the things that we can control, that we can live with that purpose and that meaning. Because let's always keep in mind, we do not choose our age, right? We do not choose our age. However, we can always choose our attitude. That we do 100% of the time. We can always choose how we are going to deal with aging. And I am not just saying this out of the air. No, I told you that I have worked with many people that are older, 90s, in their hundreds. And I used to go to an adult daycare center. It was in Miami Beach, Española Way. I went there for 9 years. I loved doing groups with my older adults. And I did 1 week in Spanish and the following week in English. I loved doing that. Still, not only professionally I did it, I also did it personally. I had the blessing of having my mom, my beloved mother, until she was almost 101. She died 2 months before 101. And you may have seen that if you have watched other videos that I talk about that, because that was a blessing to have her. And let me tell you, I learned so much about life because of her role model. She was a role model. She taught me so much about aging, how to deal with it. Because you know what? We, as human beings, we are so resilient. We are. And I want us to tap into that, into our resiliency, how to deal with the changes, and to keep faith in our hearts, to have that purpose, to have that meaning. And that's why, as we go through this transition, we are going to pay attention and to focus on what we can do. Instead of comparing with others, that's something that I tell you if you're doing that, and I hope you're not, but if you are, stop doing that, comparing with others, and comparing with the person you used to be, with the woman you used to be, with the man you used to be when you were younger. When I was there, I used to do that, I used to look that. Do you know what? That's part of your story. Yes. However, that doesn't define you. Life continues. We are here now. We are going through this process together. We're aging together. Actually, we're doing this together. And because I'm telling you to do this, of course I'm doing it as well. Because if not, it wouldn't be authentic, right? Of course I'm doing it also. And I know it helps. I know it helps because not only because of my work, because of also what I do. Okay? As life continues and we continue, if we have the possibility, the blessing, know that we have our mind, that we can use our mind, we can continue learning. Of course we can. We can continue learning. And now more than ever, we can be educated, through our phone, through our computer. We don't have to go even somewhere to learn things. And that is something that helps us tremendously because we want to keep our mind active, learning, being curious. I remember one time a doctor that knew my mom, she was in her 90s, and he said, she is so curious. And that helps so much because when we are curious, we want to learn, we want to be informed, we want to be like that, okay? And now, I have clients that come here and show me in their 80s, they show me how they use ChatGPT. I am like, oh my God. I cannot believe this. I love this. Yes, I say this to you. My mom, when she was 96, she learned to use a tablet because she wanted to learn Duolingo. Duolingo, that she wanted to learn English in Duolingo, that app. I'm like, I was so ecstatic when she told me, Ligia, I want to learn that. So I got it for her and I taught her. First, I would take her finger to do it. Then she did herself. I assure you that if she would be with me today, she would have totally, got into learning ChatGPT because she wanted to continue. With that example, that role model, and other older adults that I have worked with, I'm like, there are no excuses. People in their 50s that tell me, I am too old to do this, to do that. I am too old. No, those are limitations that we put in our head, in our mind. So we can continue learning. We can continue reading. We can continue, if you want to travel, if you're able to travel, maybe you cannot go if you don't want to for a long trip, far away. You can do trips. You can continue enjoying, So all these things you can do. You can be a mentor to someone. Because remember that with age, we acquire experience. Of course, we have wisdom. Okay, that's why I love to call older adults instead of elderly. I love to call them elders. Okay, all these things we continue doing. And something also that is extremely important, it's social support. That I have a program that I do. In English, it's on Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is sponsored by the Humana Foundation through the Alliance for Aging. So if you want to join us, it's free because it's sponsored. Just, write it there below the video, or my email, info, info, at ligiahouben.com, my first and last name. And you can send me an email asking, that you want to join us, and I'll send you the information, because that's the beauty. I talk about all these things, how to continue growing, ideas and things, and then it becomes like also a group, because they share. After I present, then they share as a group, and it's beautiful, and they like it, okay? That is something that you could also do. You could join our program. You would love it. You would like it, okay? Something else that I want to remind you, connection with others from the heart. Love is the most powerful emotion. As you love others, your family, your friends, people around you, humanity, you give love. That is the most powerful thing. To be able to forgive, to be able to serve, volunteering. That's also something that can help us feel so good. All these things we can continue doing. You may also want to consider leaving a legacy. How do you want to be reminded? All these things we can do, because remember that every stage in life, every season has its beauty. this season, as we grow older and we continue growing older, if God grants us life, each time, each stage brings its beauty. So I wanted to bring this message to you because how to continue living with purpose, with meaning, and we will be having these conversations, because as I said before, the previous episode, yes, it's to recognize if there are some losses that we experience as we age and they are making us feel, that we may be grieving. But as we honor that and we process that, then we can move into this. What are we going to do now? I leave you with this reflection for you to ask yourself, how do I choose to live these years that are coming? How do I choose to continue living with purpose and meaning? Thank you for being here. If you liked this episode, this message, I would totally appreciate it if you can subscribe to the channel, if you can give me a like, and if you share it with others that may be wanting to have some more meaning in life and want to know how to do this. Okay? We'll be continuing having this conversation. If you like these messages, leave me a comment and tell me what you want me to share with you, and we'll continue. Because when we talk about transforming grief, that is the name of the episode, the podcast, that is part of transformation. Because we transform grief as we validate it, but then we continue transforming it into what are we going to do with that, okay? I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for being here. From my heart to yours.